And thank you for staying with us. Well, the number of states that require high school students in courses in economics will take a recent drop in years, explained by data from the Council for Economic Education. Now, the lack of financial literacy in schools is still a problem to date. And talking about this now, we welcome finance advisor Jonathan Ortiz. He's also a part of the largest financial consulting program in New York City. You've seen him on several programs. We're glad to have him here, sharing with us here on Open. Thanks for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Good. So let's talk about this here. Michael was talking about higher education and really having students prepared for higher education. But as you talk about financial education and financial literacy, it's something that is actually dissipating out of schools. I know you're really trying to be aggressive in helping students understand the importance of financial literacy.
Yes, correct. My advocacy at the moment is to have different stakeholders work on this together. What ends up happening, a lot of us are a product of, hey, John, go to school, go to college, get your degree. But what ends up happening is that people like my mother and my father, they did not have the financial backing, the financial security, the financial education to say, hey, Jonathan, you're going to go to school, but you're going to need a student loan. I'm not going to be able to help you pay for that loan. So here I am 10, 15 years later, still paying for a student loan for that education that I achieved. Mm-hmm. What ends up happening in many cases, especially in New York City, is that here we are, whether you are in the most expensive schools or the poorest schools in terms of price, you're over borrowing. You know, so here you are with a problem that you could have fixed a long time ago by not taking excessive amounts of student loans or being educated and not going to that school in the first place. That's what I'm trying to address right now, and I'm advocating that we not only support financial education programs in the school, in the public schools sector, K-12, but also having the support for the parents so that they too can get themselves out of debt or out of financial situations.
And so we talk about support for parents. Obviously, sometimes parents don't even know the support that's actually available. Talk us about some of the support that's available to them.
Right now New York State is very aggressive. There's different programs. One of them is the Financial Empowerment Centers, which provides free one-on-one financial counseling. You could get you could get the service via 311 or go online by contacting the Department of Consumer Affairs. You can also contact different not-for-profits such as Phipps Neighborhoods that will give you that service for free.
And so what's the biggest challenge facing students when it comes to financial literacy?
Right now, the biggest challenge is actually getting the financial literacy. We have a lot of counseling, we have a lot of different programs for them, a lot of financial coaching, but what are you learning? How do you open a bank account? How do you save? You know, these are a lot of services that should be in the schools, and you should be getting them from kindergarten, I believe, all the way up. How do you open a basic savings account? How do you prepare to buy that house, the American dream? You know, how do you get there if you don't know how to get there? What's basically happening is that you're graduating from high school, and here you are thinking, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other. And the banker's telling you, well, get this loan, get this, get that, and the other. And you're following the steps, but then you're in debt. Massive debt where you're either going to end up in default, foreclosure, or bankruptcy.
And that's one of the biggest problems I think students have is that they don't know the debt that's going to be incurred much of the time until after the fact, and then the ability to get out of it. We talked about President Obama. I was at a conference one time. He said it wasn't until probably like just a few years ago that he just got finished paying off his student loans. If the President of the United States has a hard time paying off his student loans, I think a lot of us need some advanced planning.
Of course, we sure do, especially in the Bronx, where, in my experience, most people are not paying off the student loans. They're basically in forbearance or deferment, which means that now you're accruing interest and you're waiting to be able to make a payment because on your current income, you're not able to.
So if people want more information, what do they do?
There's different ways. You could, follow me on Twitter and, send me a message from there, J. Ortiz Finance. You could also contact me via my email, jortizfinance@gmail.com, and I'll be able to, tell you what's available for you.
What are some of the common mistakes that people do make?
Overborrowing. The number one is overborrowing. A lot of us are pre-approved for, let's say, $21,000, to go to school, but your school only costs $10,000. Why are you borrowing $21,000? Just borrow what you need and let give back the rest of the Department of Education. It feels good to get that refund back from your school. You know what I mean? Some of us need, laptops. You probably need to pay for housing, but you should find alternative ways to pay for those things.
And those alternative ways, sometimes it's not always easy to find out. So what advice do you give people in terms of trying to find alternative ways?
Well, if you don't have employment, first of all, find internships, find volunteer opportunities. Talk to your local congressman, your local assemblyman. See what they can do for you in order for you to, fill in those gaps.
So at the start of this segment, we talked a little bit about economics and how economics has been, when I went to school, it was important. It was a class that you had to take, and nowadays it's almost like an elective in the curriculum, and not a lot of people really focus on economics. How important is this, and would you like to see it back in the educational system?
The main reason I want to see it is because I don't see it anywhere. And not only that, I have spoken to many different organizations, nonprofit organizations, and they're not willing. They're saying they don't have the money to take care of it. How are you going to break the cycle of poverty if you're not willing to invest in programming that's going to help the youth of our country, of our schools? I think that's the first step.
So you're part of the largest financial counseling in the New York City. Talk to us about the services that are provided and what you offer.
We offer free one-on-one financial counseling services. We could talk to you about reducing your debt. We could talk about increasing your credit scores, talk about your budget. If you have student loan situations, we might be able to help you get out of default, forbearances. We tell you the steps. We coach you one-on-one to get there.
So if you want more information, listen, you can go to J. Ortiz Finance. That's on Twitter.
That's my Twitter, or you could also just email me at jortizfinance@gmail.com. You can always call 301 and set up an appointment for a financial counselor.
Well, we want people to make sure that they do that. Jonathan Ortiz, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. And, of course, got to bring you back and give us some more education.
Thank you.
All righty. Jonathan Ortiz, our guest in studio. Listen, before we go, we want to make sure that we get back to the breaking news. If you are traveling right now, headed towards 87 North, or if you're looking for somebody coming off of 87 off of the Tappan Zee Bridge, both lanes of the Mario Cuomo Bridge, better known as the Tappan Zee Bridge, have been shut down due to multiple crashes. State police say the accidents are going on the Rockland side, but yet and still emergency vehicles are going to need to come from the other way, and that has shut them down. There's 6 crashes in the Rockland-bound lanes. They say that multiple cars have been involved in the wreck, including multiple injuries. So stay tuned to your local news to find out more. I want to encourage you, as you're also driving out there throughout the course of this slippery and snowy weather, make sure that you take your time, allow yourself some extra time to brush off your car. And if you're driving out there, make sure that you do that. If you're walking, be very careful. It's real slippery out there. I want everybody to stay safe and make sure that you keep this channel also wide open. We've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Cablevision's Channel 67, Verizon Fios. We're on Channel 33, or watch us anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. For all of us here on the set of Open, I'm Darren Jaime saying take care. God bless.